let's talk about Nagas.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was you or someone else on the show who said that the ancient Nagas that we speak about, the ones that Bhim met when he went to the bottom of that lake,
Yeah.
and the ones that are mentioned in all the Puranas, etc., were a part of India. I think Praveen Mohan was on the show and he said that there are villages in South India where the village is built on the side of a hillock, and on the top of that little hill, there were these tiny ancient hutments built. And the local villagers believed that those huts were actually the home to Nagas, who were just smaller human beings.
Right.
Something like pygmies, but they looked like reptilian beings. Someone else told me that they were the ancestors of the modern day snakes we see around. Someone else has told me that they are actually still there, but they're just hidden. Nagas have gone to very hidden parts of the earth. They're still inhabiting. Someone else said they went back to the planet that they came from. I don't even know what the truth is. So I'd like to actually talk about both modern day snakes and their power and Nagas. And the reason I ask you about modern day snakes is because human beings often think that we're the most evolved and most intelligent creatures because we've discovered science. But what if we've not discovered what we even don't know that we've not discovered? And the gauge of intelligence is not necessarily scientific achievement. Maybe there are other formats of science which other animals know about, like whales or snakes or dolphins or dogs. Why is intelligence only related to technology and science? So let's break down Nagas as well as modern day snakes.
So Nagas, I cannot say with full conviction that what exactly happened to Nagas, but more or less, yes, they were very powerful reptilian beings, snakes you can call them. And as I mentioned, they do have a lot of occult power and occult abilities they had. And they are very powerful to the extent that they can manifest the various, they could, at least we have texts that mention that they could manifest the various siddhis, that siddhis are the special, powers, for lack of better words, that can come to an individual or a yogi who goes to a very high level. Those they could manifest. Plus, they would often, they get naturally drawn towards beings who have greater power than themselves. That is why even Buddha, by the way, the Buddhist texts mention that when he was meditating, there was a Naga that came and gave him shelter. Okay, Shiva has a Naga around him. Vishnu has sleeps on a snake. Devi has a lot of, Ma Tara's iconography will have snakes, tied to her anklets are snakes, her yeas are various things. Okay. So Nagas are basically, let's look at this way. You can think of them as creatures who had a lot of evolved spiritual knowledge. Certain specific techniques of spirituality. Spirituality is not just a simple one-way track. It is like it's like a tree. The Bhagavad Gita describes spirituality as an inverted tree. Okay, so it's a tree with multiple branches. With so many, there's yoga is there, pranayama is there, tantra is there. In tantra, dakshinachar, vamachar is there, aghora is there. So many devatas are there. It is not at all a one-track thing. It depends. Why is it there? Because there are going to be different types of individuals. These are all parts. So certain specific types of spiritual progress, spiritual paths, the Nagas had absolute mastery of. From the Nagas, we have the Yoga Sutras, the Patanjali's. Patanjali himself was a Naga, it's believed to be. And some of the techniques of yoga come from them to us. It's like they brought this knowledge to the world. I feel, when I study these things, that what they gave is very exclusive and not fit for living, not just yoga. There are other aspects of them. Their knowledge is not fit for the average common human being, because human beings are not yet that evolved to take that kind of a knowledge or execute them. Maybe one or two individuals at some places may have done that, but others do not have the capacity for it. Their techniques are very intense. Sometimes it is possible for an individual to have a Naga as a benefactor also, by the way. Benefactor means somebody who protects you. It can happen through a ritual, or it can happen automatically also. This is exactly what the Naga is doing when he is coming and putting up his hood in front of Buddha, who is meditating for so many days, because there is a higher level spiritual power that is there, so it automatically comes as a protector. The same thing is happening in another format when there is it's not a Naga, but from the current day snakes that we have, they have some kind of a link. Okay. So when that ritual is going on, or any ritual is going on, the snake comes and it does a pradakshina and it moves around without harming anybody. That's very important. And here is the catch. If you get scared of it, that automatically indicates that you do not have that spiritual power to be steady and calm in the presence of that entity or being, or that's naga or snake, etc. Then it is either not going to come to you or it is going to react to you. Okay. So that is what Nagas are. Even today, Naga worship, by the way, happens. In Kerala, there are temples of Nagas. And in the same context, there are certain doshas in horoscopes, in Jatakas, when the grahas that are there in Jyotisha, certain doshas which are called as Naga dosha or Sarpa dosha. Okay. Which, if present in an individual, is going to cause you a lot of friction in life, lot of badhas, sometimes difficulty in conceiving children, getting married, happiness, various things. Okay. So when those are there, it's a standard dictum to get specific rituals and pujas done in specific kshetras in order to calm them down. So Nagas are, at one point, their engagement with our civilization was far deeper. Now, whether Nagas went back to their realm, I personally feel, and I'm just speculating because I have no direct knowledge of this, I personally feel that no, there are still Nagas, but they are more hidden in their own domains, and they will not appear to you until you have achieved a certain degree of proficiency. There's a interesting anecdote, a story that comes in, and I read it in Sri Aurobindo's writings. Once he was meditating, I think he or the mother, who was his spiritual consort, I think she was meditating, or Sri Aurobindo, and this meditating on the problem that why is there poverty, and then he goes to a certain realm, okay, and he, I'm just telling it as it is written, okay, goes to a certain realm and then sees that there is a huge amount of wealth kept in that realm, and they ask, but there are Nagas, 2 or 3 Nagas who are guarding that wealth, okay, and then they ask them that why is not this released to the world, because there are people who suffer from, etc., and they say that there's a price for this. There are certain base human instincts, until you overcome them, this will not come to you, which means that poverty is always going to exist. And he writes that down. Any other person would have told me this, I would have perhaps thought that it's his imagination or something. But Sri Aurobindo was a very evolved yogi. Okay, he's not the kind of the mother that to make up something like that. But that also ties with some other colloquial stories that in local languages, in local different parts of India we have, which mentions that Nagas sometimes guard wealths and very rare treasures. It could be a physical treasure. Wealth means there are different categories of wealth in the world. One is the money. Money is the easiest form of wealth, but there are precious gems. There are some kind of hidden stones or things like that. So they may guard those wealth so that it doesn't fall into the hands of undeserving or something like that. See, snakes have this thing. Snakes, there are 2 types. One is the evolved snakes, and then there are the lower category of snakes which are also which are not particularly favored, by the way. For example, we have this, we get from the texts the story that Rishi Kashyapa had 2 wives, Diti and Aditi, and from one the gods were born, Devatas were born, and from one the lower beings were born. So one of them had children who were snakes. So one of the things the normal snake has is that snake has jealousy. Jealousy means no. Let's take it as a symbolism. I'm not saying that in a specific that a snake has jealousy. No, the snake symbolizes at the lower realm that clinging to something. Why is that person getting it? Mere ko kyun nahi mil raha hai? That sense is symbolized by snake. I'm not saying that actually snake has that feeling of love or jealousy, but snake's presence, ordinary snake's presence, can indicate at the negative sense jealousy, and this is exactly the doshas that reflect into the horoscope when there are Naga, Sarpa doshas, etc., and many other things. It causes problems of, as I was saying, whether somebody is not able to get married or not happy or things like that. And there's no amount of upasana of normal deities who are going to cure you of that, because you have done some karmas in past with respect to snakes or something, and often it happens that if you kill snakes, it can manifest more strongly. If not in this lifetime, then in other lifetimes.
Okay. I have a small story I want to share, which I've not said on the show, and I actually feel very bad talking about this. But I'm still going to talk about it. My building, like the building I grew up in, my family's building, and my neighbor's building had a net in the middle, like a metallic net, like a jali. And when I was 16 one day, I just heard a lot of shouting happening in the compound. So I went out and saw from my balcony, tried to figure out what's happening. I could see something is stuck in that jali, and you know where the story is going. It was a grey colored snake. Okay. And my watchman was also freaking out. And he was a calm guy usually. You know, he's a gardener. He was very in sync with nature. But I saw him freaking out for the first time. I saw people collecting around these two buildings. And this one gentleman came in, caught the snake with a stick, and I was excited. So I went down to see what's happening. But I'm just a 16-year-old observing this.
Right.
First of all, I felt damn weird that in 16 years I'd never even seen a snake in my life. This is the first snake I saw. I'm curious to see what he's doing with the stick. He kind of wrapped it around the stick, trapped it, poured kerosene and burnt the snake in front of everyone.
It's terrible.
And I remember how that snake was wincing when it was being burnt. And I knew that some dark energy was surrounding everyone who was viewing that snake be burnt, including myself. But I was 16, wasn't even confident enough to have a conversation with a stranger. I didn't know what to do. Do you think me being a part of that snake being burnt had an effect?
That will be a minor effect in the sense because you empathize with which is normal with that creature, and but the individual who does it will definitely specifically harming snakes is more or less problematic. If not right, then definitely you'll have to have some strong repercussions. See, this is the interesting thing. We say generally that harming anything is bad, but it depends on what exactly it is. Which means every entity, every being, every living, non-living or animate thing has its own Shakti. The Shakti that a snake has is very different from more or less every other animal. Harming snakes, specifically snakes that have poison, is an invitation for troubles. And if there are certain combinations in the horoscope, they trigger those combinations immediately. After that, life is going to go for a toss. All things that you go will have repercussions in their way. So snakes are sort of, it's not that, see, snakes are very individualistic creatures, by the way. The other thing is that it's not to be something they're not in the sense that they're not friends. A snake is not a dog, by the way. A dog is very friendly, can be very friendly. I'm saying even cats perhaps. Okay, I don't have any with cats, but I'm just saying. And dog being Bhairav Baba's Vahan is even more interesting. But snakes are not your friends. They're like super introverts. It's not like I have a pet snake and it doesn't care about you. Let it be happy in its own way. Okay, that is what is important. Harming snakes has repercussions. I believe that it's not a good thing to do, but I don't think that you have personally should be worried about that because you were not directly involved in causing anything, and there were other people also, and you were just 16. So don't suffer from the guilt of it. Whatever negative feeling you had at that moment, and I can completely understand when you're describing it, take it as it is past. It's not your fault.
But what was the symbolism of Maya throwing up that incident to me? Was it for this conversation?
I don't know. So these if you have to analyze these, you have to analyze what happened in your life after that, in the next 6 months, 1 year, how did it go, etc. So it's like perhaps a little too late to have this self-analysis at the moment, but more or less specifically when you evolve more spiritually, you see that everything that you see or you experience or you meet, there are certain indications that will come in your life around whether it was a positive thing or negative thing or etc, things like that. But I believe that you should not hold a guilt feeling because of it, because obviously you were not responsible for it. You were just 16. But yeah, it's not a good idea to harm snakes, specifically if the snake is poisonous. Even more reason, don't be too with it. Like a lot of people, it's their mentality, I suppose. They feel that it's very nice to have a snake and display and take photos and all that. Snake doesn't enjoy it. You may be enjoying it, snake is not enjoying it. Okay, so let it be as it is in its natural setting. Don't disturb it. Don't go ahead and unnecessarily poke it. And if you find a snake coming into your territory and all that, so call the animal control or whatever and put it into wherever it has to be put, instead of killing it and all that, because killing snakes will trigger certain repercussions, if not now, then at the right time. And
that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's a very heavy format of karma.
Why do you think of all animals the snake is considered a representative of the Kundalini Shakti?
You tell me.
That is because it's like if you look at the if you look at the original diagrams of Kundalini, so it's like they're described as a
Coiled.
snake, coiled snake, 3.5 coils at the Muladhara, and then it starts rising up. And when it fully manifests, it's like a snake with its hood open. Okay, so snakes are this very interesting creatures, of which the Nagas and all who are there of the same. It's like humans, for example. There are humans who are very spiritual, very advanced, and then there are humans who are extremely diabolical and very malefic types. Both are possible in the same species, right? So snakes are like that. There could be very highly evolved snakes, and then there could be very lower snakes. And we see this example in, as I was saying, Rishi Kashyap's wife. So one of his wives, she gave birth to a lot of snakes, and the snakes were extremely jealous types. Okay, but one of them is also the Shesh Naga. Okay, and he is very spiritual in nature. That is why he has the ability to hold the world, and he has a connection with Vishnu. Okay, and the other snakes become an enemy of Garuda. Garuda is also connected to Vishnu, and Garuda was born from the other wife of Kashyapa. So average snake is a symbol of an extreme competitiveness, jealousy, bitterness, the dark feelings that a human also has. It's a symbol of that. But a snake that has, and that is very rare, and this is where the Nagas come in. If ever anybody gets to encounter one, not normally, you will not. Those are very different. They may even bless an individual. There is a concept of something, and there's today, based on this concept, a lot of fraud also happens. Something known as a Nag money. It's believed.
Nag what?
Nag money.
Money
is a jewel. Money means jewel. So it's believed that certain Nagas, when they live up to a long time, they develop a certain kind of jewel in their head. Okay. Now, don't go into analyzing this scientifically. Okay, it's not, leave science aside. This is the realm of occult and things that are not normally by the five senses. Okay, so they have this money, and they can shed that money, that specific gem. If an individual gets hold of that gem, it causes an absolutely like going in a lift. Your life is going to change, tuck, every aspect. Whether it's material, whether it's spiritual, whether it's everything, whatever you touch is going to go like rocket speed.
This can be found in jungles?
No, it's very difficult to find. That's why I say a lot of fraud happens. I know people who have been duped by people claiming that they have found a Nagmani, and they'll ask for crores and all that. And a lot of important people who are aware of this concept keep searching for that. But if at all, if anybody finds it ever, I believe that it's possible to find. Obviously, otherwise, whatever lore or story comes in, there's always an element of truth in that. Okay, and given that it is connected to Naga, so if somebody finds a gem like that, it can cause, but it's not at all easy to find. And most of the people you will find that who are selling these things, most of them are just frauds.
The snakes we see in the modern day, which you see in cities also occasionally, they are also spiritual creatures?
No, not all. Not all. See,
they're animalistic.
They can be normal animalistic. They can be completely normal animalistic. And tying it back to that story which I told you of that individual who, that little girl whose voice changed and all that, he was explaining to me. So there are different types of snakes. There are entities that can take the form of snakes. One of the forms they love taking. Okay, and in that they can bite somebody, or they can do something, and that is always a reason behind it why it is there. So there's a specific kriya or mantra which he was doing. He suspected that it is one of those kind of entities, using which you can figure out that is it a normal animal as a snake, as a reptile as a snake, or it is some of the entities that are behaving like a snake, and then do whatever needs to be done. Okay. So again, these things are very difficult for people to believe until they have a direct experience of it, which is perfectly all right if anybody doesn't want to believe. There's no force in this, but strange things happen.